Hi, my name's Juby Kolb, and I'm going to be going over my first activity. So this will be my higher level activity for my book. The book I chose from the Read Aloud is El Barrio. It's by Debbie Chocolate and illustrated by David Diaz. I ranked this book at second grade level because of the Spanish included in it. I thought it was a little bit more difficult to understand. And also just the way that the book goes, it's not a necessary story. It is, in a sense, but it's a little bit more confusing, and I think that second grade would be able to grasp it a little bit better than a first grade class would. So my first activity, leave the book there, I decided to go with vocabulary, and it's called Candyland Vocabulary. So we're all familiar, you can do this basically with any board game that you choose. We're all familiar with the game board Candyland. You could do Sorry, you could do any game that you really want. And what I did was I made up cards that have vocabulary words on them from the story. And they'll be face down before students can move forward with their turn. Just like the normal game, before they roll the dice and everything, they have to pick up a card. They'll pick up one of their cards, and like this one is the word Corona. Prior to playing the game, they will have looked in the glossary and hopefully gotten a little bit of a good review on what the different words mean. And it's not all Spanish words. Some of them are just regular vocab that's in the book. But the student must correctly define the word. The students will have the book on hand. They'll designate one person to look in the glossary and identify whether they got the word correct or not. If the student gets the word correct, they get to move forward with their turn. They can roll the dice, and they can move their little person to the spot that they need to and move forward with the game just as usual. My standard for this was LAFS .2.L.3.4. It's to determine or clarify the meaning of unknown and multiple meaning words and phrases based on grade 2 reading and content, choosing flexibly from an array of strategies. One of those strategies was using a dictionary or a glossary. So that's why I really thought it was a good idea. Students will be able to just have fun while learning their vocabulary without even knowing it. My rubric for this center focuses on the student understanding their vocabulary, so being able to define it, and then just being able to recognize the word at all. Because the words in this are a little bit more complex, it can be hard, so I did it on a total of 10 points. This will be for each center. And basically, you're at your lowest point under your vocabulary. Your student will only be able to define 4 or less vocabulary words correctly. And at the high point, they'll be able to at least define 10 or more. And this can depend, too, on how far they get in the game. If students, have more turns or there are less students playing, they may get more opportunities. So the numbers can be adjusted accordingly. And then for your word recognition, if the student wasn't able to recognize or pronounce a minimum of at least 4 of the words shown to them, they don't get any points, they're not understanding it. They might need to go back and probably break down the words even more than just vocabulary. And then at the top end of the 5 points that they can earn for that is that they would be able to pronounce at least the 10 words that they got correct. I understand that these are Spanish words, so they might be a little bit more difficult, but students are able to kind of at least break it down to where they get the general idea of how things are supposed to be said. I like this game a lot and this strategy in general because it really lets the students talk and do things orally without recognizing, like I said before, that they're even trying to learn vocabulary. Vocabulary can be really difficult to get a student to grasp, especially if you're just doing, you're assigning vocabulary words each week and having them write the definition, draw a picture, and use it in a sentence. It can get very repetitive. So I think this is a good way to kind of break it up a little and give them some different vocabulary than what they're used to. It's really helpful for kids to kind of go out of their rut sometimes, especially in the middle of the year. So that was my first activity. I hope you enjoy it.